All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Isabel Knight, and I am the middle grade fantasy author of the Enchantria series. And today, as I am sure you will notice, I am here with a very special guest. So everyone, please welcome Lee Bacon, the author of The Last Human. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Table is too crowded to place books. Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm just utterly surrounded by wires and books right now. So, anyway. So, hello, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh. Do you mind introducing yourself and your books and how the idea for The Last Human came about?
Sure. So my name is Lee Bacon, as you heard, and I am the author of a bunch of books for young people. My first series was called Joshua Dredd. That was a three-book series. Then I wrote the Legendtopia series. That was a two-book series. That was followed by, The Last Human. I actually have a picture of that one here. And then that's the US version. This is the UK version. I also have a bunch of international versions that I can show at some point if you want to. The Last Human also had a sequel that came out more recently called Fall of the Robots, and then I wrote a book called Imaginary, and I've also written a bunch of or several Audible originals. So if you have Audible, you can listen to those for free if you have an Audible membership. And that I think there was one called, Mystery of Alice, Interview with the Robot, Replaced, and I have another one coming out in like a month or two. That's going to be called Otherworldly. So a lot of books at this point. It's kind of funny to look back and try to sort of think about try to remember all these different books at this point. And then you also asked about where I got the idea for The Last Human.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny. I was walking down the street in Maplewood, New Jersey, where I used to live, and I was listening to an interview with between a guy named Ezra Klein and Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote the book *Sapiens*. And Ezra Klein asked him if Harari thought that human beings would be the dominant life form on the planet in, I think it was 250 years or something. And without missing a beat, the answer was no. We will either wipe ourselves out, or we will be replaced by our own creation, that is technology. And I heard this kind of dire and scary prediction, and I thought to myself, that would make a great kids book.
Yeah,
That's where it came from. I
yeah,
started writing the book that same day.
yeah, that happens to me a lot. Although I think if I heard that, I would just feel like run or something like that, because
Yeah.
like it would just be terrifying.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen too soon, because I very enjoy living here on Earth and just being able to write books. So yeah,
Same.
yeah. So your character in your book XR 935. I'm not sure if I'm saying the character's name right. Am I?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
XR935.
Yeah. So XR935 is a robot, but like, they or it just feels so relatable. And, was it hard to make a robot feel so human and relatable, even though they're a robot? And, like, I know it might not be as hard as it sounds, but, like, if it was me, I would probably just totally overthink it.
Uh, you know what? Thank you for saying that. That was definitely my goal, was to make XR. Um, you want to kind of feel that it's a robot at all times. That's part of the voice, but you don't want it to be so remote and cold that it just feels like you're just sort of reading something that's, I don't know, kind of boring and unrelatable. So I think the trick for me was finding ways to kind of make the machine part of XR feel like connect to the our own human emotions. So like if he gets scared, he or not he it if it gets scared, it will sort of describe like its processors, like overheating, or at certain moments when it gets overwhelmed, XR will start counting in binary. The way that you might, like if you're trying to calm down, you might say, okay, just calm, count to 3, take a deep breath. But of course, because he's a robot, or because it's a robot, XR will count to 1,000,000 in binary in like, half a second or something. So there were a lot of these moments where I was trying to sort of find like a clever way to sort of make the kind of computer machine side of XR feel more human.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you did an amazing job of that. And I really like how XR like always counts to 1,000,000 in binary. I can't,
Yeah,
yeah, I can't even count to 1,000,000 in regular numbers. And in half a
it would take a
second.
while.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would take, I don't know how long it would take.
it would take 1,000,000 seconds, however long that is.
I don't know. I feel like for me it would just take several seconds to say a number, especially when I got to like the later, the I don't know, as far as where I got, like
True.
I don't know,
That's a good point.
1,973 or I don't know, any random number.
True. So it would take more than 1,000,000 seconds. Yeah, it would probably take, 2 or 3 million seconds.
You know what? I'm just not even gonna bother trying to calculate how many hours that's gonna be.
Yeah.
But anyway, so question number 3 is: was there a moment in the book that was really tricky to write? Like a moment that took forever to get just right?
You know what? I can't remember any specific moments. I think the thing that's always kind of the trickiest for me is being in the middle of a book. I don't know how it is with you when you're writing books, but the beginning, I kind of feel inspired. I have this idea. I want to kind of bring this world to life. Usually by the end, it's kind of, you sort of can see the finish line. You're kind of wrapping it up. You're sort of thinking of ways to sort of tie all the storylines together. And then there's this period for about, especially like kind of this 50 pages in the middle. Some authors refer to it as the muddy middle, where you just, you're kind of like, you don't want to, you don't want to, you kind of want to like explore things, but you also need to start thinking about getting on to the sort of whatever the next stage of the story is. And that part can be tricky. And I don't really know any good technique for sort of getting through the muddy middle. I think you just kind of write through it, and then in the editing process, you sort of refine it and say, okay, I've dragged on too long here, or I skipped over something there. But yeah, I would say that rather than like any specific moment, it was more just kind of like the whole middle part kind of was tricky.
Yeah, that happens literally all the time to me and to so many of my writing buddies. When that happens, I
Yeah,
just usually call it stuck in the mud.
there you go. That's a good
Yeah.
expression.
Yeah, when I was writing book 1 in the Enchantria series, the middle had me stuck for 2 months. A 2 months period when I was so stuck I could not even write. And yeah.
What got you out of it?
I have absolutely no idea. Finally, I was just like going to tell my mom like I'm going to give up. But like after that I was just like, "No, I can't give up. I have to finish this book." And so I just dragged myself to just I don't know, just write another paragraph or I don't know, do whatever
Yeah.
it took to get me out of that muddy middle. Yeah.
That's good advice. I think just kind of sometimes you need to take a step away. I think that's good
Yeah.
writing advice. Is like, if you're kind of not feeling inspired, feeling stuck, whatever, sometimes forcing it is not so good, because then
Yeah.
the reader can kind of feel it. And I think it's better sometimes just to take a step away, whether it's a few days or a few months, and and then come back, and maybe you have to kind of like say, okay, I'm just going to write this next paragraph, whatever it is, I'm just going to write it, and then usually you start getting some momentum, and hopefully you get it back.
Yeah, I think that That's great advice, and it's also nice to see that I'm not the only writer who totally gets stuck in the middle.
Not even close.
Yeah. So, I'm just currently scanning the list of questions and picking the next one. So,
Sure.
okay, so question number like 4 or 5. I lost count. But a world where robots like took over and eliminated the humans sounds like something straight out of a dystopian nightmare, but The Last Human
Yeah.
is actually really hopeful. So, like, how did you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question because that is a challenge, right? I and that's something I've heard from other people is like, it does the basic description sounds like it would be this dark dystopian thing, and that's just not the book I wanted to write. So I think for me it was about kind of trying to find the humor and the kind of novelty of this world of robots, right? Like the way that trying to imagine what it would be like. And instead of it being kind of this dreary sort of post-apocalyptic landscape, it's actually this sort of it's very sort of bright and clean, and everything kind of works perfectly. And the robots are sort of going along and doing their jobs. And but at the same time, there's a kind of humor in it because we're sort of seeing how XR and its coworkers sort of interact with each other, and the way that they're similar to people and the ways that they're different. And yeah, so I kind of just I think it just happened by me sort of forcing it that way. It's like, okay, I know from the beginning I don't want this thing to be dark and dreary and post-apocalyptic. I want it to be fun and bright and funny. And then you sort of set your tone or your voice, and hopefully the book sort of encapsulates that. So that's sort of, I think it just, like I said, it kind of just started because that was what I wanted it to be. And I just kind of, there was no confusion about like, oh, is this dark? Is this bright? Is this funny? Is it serious? I just kind of knew exactly what it was when I started.
Yeah, and I think like that worked out really well. I absolutely love the book, and
Thank you.
yeah, I really love all of the humor in it, and I do think Emma is right when she says all the robots should start like a comedy group. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be uh, that certainly would be a comedy show that I would enjoy going to.
yeah, they would make a perfect comedy group. Like even though like XR doesn't even understand all of the human jokes, like I think that's what really makes it just so funny.
Right. Yeah. No, there's something funny about someone who's so completely humorless that they go like around. It's like a circle, and they go from being so unfunny that they're actually funny.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question I have is a slightly sneaky question that I have
Okay.
asked all the authors in interviews, and that question is: do you have a secret pen name that no one knows about?
No, I don't. I Good question. I might at some point because I write I've only written kids books so far, but who knows? Maybe at some point I will write something for grown-ups. And if I do, I've kind of considered like, oh, maybe then I would write under a different name just so that there's like not confusion. You don't want like a 7-year-old reading a book that's aimed at people who are kind of an older audience. But no secret pin names. And I guess if there were, I guess I probably wouldn't tell you, but there aren't. Uh,
Yeah. Um, I think I may have had a different pen name in the past that I'm
hmm
probably not going to tell you. I don't know if
Right.
I don't know if this has slipped in my previous videos, but I would just tell you this. If you go to Goodreads, it's also possible you may just find it. And it's also
Okay.
really possible you're going to see like a catalog of a different version of Enchantria with a truly
Hmm.
horrendous cover.
Oh.
So, Well, hopefully no one
Now
finds
all the
that.
internet detectives can go searching for it.
It's fine. Yeah, so okay, so next question is how did you come up with the characters in The Last Human? Because I feel like all of the characters in the novel are just, they're really unique, they're funny, they have their own quirks, and I also really love how SKD communicates in emoji, and I was also wondering
Yeah.
how you came up with that.
That was something that I kind of stumbled into. So to answer the first part of the question, how did I come up with the characters? I wanted them to each be distinct. So XR is the narrator, and here I'll show you. I can show a picture of the different characters here for those who are watching. So this is XR, and there's Emma there, and XR is the narrator, and kind of XR is the most human-like in this story.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like its anatomy, it kind of has a similar sort of the size of an adult human with two arms and two legs and feet and hands and everything and a head. And then you have, as you mentioned, SKD or Skid, who only speaks in emojis, and that was something I kind of stumbled into. I thought it would be kind of fun to have like that visual element on the page. So, you have like these moments in the book where Skid is trying to, instead of saying something, it'll just flash these emojis on the screen. And we as readers, have to kind of do that interpretation ourselves. And sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's more difficult. So in this case, I think it's like it could be, maybe the question is, what are your opinions on head wounds? But the question is, are you hurt? And they kind of like sometimes they're sort of, trying to kind of interpret that. So I just thought that would be fun. But at the same time, Skid is also, kind of small and doesn't look like a human at all. And then the third kind of main robot in the story is this guy's Siron, who is really big. So it's like I don't remember the exact size, but like described as sort of being 3 or 4 times the size of XR or of a normal human, and is very big and bulky. So I kind of also, I wanted the contrast of like XR is sort of like just your average height. Skid is small and kind of wheeling around everywhere, and then Siron is huge and bulky. So that was just kind of I was just looking for. I think it's nice in a story to have that kind of contrast. You don't want three characters who are like essentially indistinguishable from each other. And then of course you've got, in addition to the size, you've got different personalities, and then you've got like a whole different way of communicating in the term in the case of Skid, only sort of speaking in emojis.
Yeah. I think Skid is definitely like one of my favorite characters because like I know it's just so much fun to like I know how like have that robot like communicate in emojis. I only have like the Kindle ebook and like I don't know, for me I feel
Uh,
like the formatting is kind of it's always like different in the Kindle ebook because I don't know,
yeah.
some things like the images and the way they're arranged, you can't really have that in like a Kindle ebook, I'm afraid.
That's tricky. I mean, the other thing is like there's also the audiobook version, and there you lose the visual element to it. So
Yeah.
that's always kind of a tough thing. And then the other thing that I didn't consider was in the international editions, because there are, like I said, there are all these different. The Last Human was published in like 23 or 24 different languages. So there are certain moments when Skid is like using, let's say, using an expression. So there's one time when Skid flashes on the on its screen a rain cloud, a cat, and a dog. Can you interpret that?
It's raining cats and dogs.
It's raining cats and dogs, exactly. But that works in English. That does not work in most other languages. So I wasn't even thinking about like um, how would they interpret that? And I've actually gone through in some of the other editions and like tried to find that that moment in the book and like figure out, okay, how did they interpret that in Swedish. And I think in Swedish it was like, I don't remember this. Maybe you'll have a Swedish viewer who can correct me, but it's like something like, it's like a rain cloud, but then there's like a fish hook and a fish or something like that, and it just connects to whatever the kind of language's equivalent of "it's raining really hard" is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something I also didn't consider, like the Kindle, the audio, the emojis. It's tough enough writing a book, just
Yeah.
for your own, like for one like language in one format, much
Yeah.
less thinking about all the different languages and formats it's going to come out in.
Yeah. When I write, I'm just told I don't even consider all that. I'm just like, focus, Isabel, focus, and get this character arc right, and like stop
Yes,
leaving plot holes everywhere. Yeah.
that's the right way to think about it. You shouldn't be thinking about like, oh, how is this going to look in the whatever edition. That's just a distraction when you're writing it. Maybe later you
Yeah.
think about that, or you run it with an
Yeah.
editor or whoever you're sort of writing the book
I mostly just write a book with myself.
with yourself. That's how you should be. Yeah,
Yeah. I don't really have an editor. It's just me and some of my writing buddies.
there you
Okay.
go.
Yeah. Okay, so this is another question that I have like sort of been wondering about, and the question is, why did you choose to write from the perspective of a robot and not from a human?
Uh, Great question. I love like the kind of unconventional narrators. I've done it in a few of my books, and I just think, I mean, one was kind of practical. I mean, I could have, I guess, I could have written it from Emma's point of view, and she's kind of climbing out of this. I will actually, I won't spoil it, but she's emerging into this world where humans aren't supposed to exist, and that would have, I'm sure that would have been an interesting book too. But it felt like the point of view of the robot was more interesting, and I hadn't seen that before. And Yeah, so it was kind of fun to like try to think, how am I going to write this, not in first person, but in first robot.
Yeah, and I think that is also one of the things like I really like about the book because like it's unique and like science fiction is not my usual genre, but like I have read some and like well, I think all of the science fiction books I've read or heard about that involve like robots taking over the world, like they're all like told from the perspective of a human. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, I'm just gonna turn on the light because I think it's getting dark here.
Okay.
Okay. So okay. So the next question is, do you have any quirky writing habits?
Ah, let's see here. I mean, I don't know. This isn't quirky at all, but you might have like noticed I've got my tea here. I drink a lot of tea when I'm writing. I'm kind of I don't drink coffee. I drink tea, and so I'm kind of, and I have like gigantic mugs, like just for sort of reference. This is my head. This is the mug. It's almost the size of my head, and yeah. So I drink a lot of tea. I have cats. I'll show you. I can show you one of them. This is Pippa. uh, so often I will have her as on my lap as my co-writer, my co-author, and I have another cat, but she's more shy. Um, so yeah, I mean, those are the kind of the quirks. The other thing is, I'm an extreme morning person. I wake up really early. I write, usually I kind of start writing at about 3:45, 4 in the morning, something like that. So when I like the idea, like, I like when it feels like the rest of the world is asleep and I'm just tapping away on my story. And I'm definitely more productive in the morning. The downside is, I'm, often tired by, by like 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm like ready to go to bed. Um, so, pros and cons.
Yeah. I use like Hold on a second. I'm just gonna adjust the lighting a little bit. Okay, I think that works. So yeah, yeah. So that's kind of a quirky writing habit, and like I don't know. I used to wake up early too. Like, mm, definitely not as early as you, because if I had done that, I'd probably just be a walking zombie.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but I used to wake up at like 7 or 6 or 8. I don't really do that
Hmm.
anymore because I'm just usually just I don't know, like tapping away on my keyboard way into the night, and waking up that early, it I don't know, it doesn't work for me anymore.
Everyone, you have to write around, the kind of person, your whatever your sort of strengths are. And some people are, morning people, some people are night people, some people, kind of write better in a coffee shop, some people write better at home. It's just kind of finding what works best for you, and trying to, hopefully implement that in the best way you can.
Yeah. The way I do it, I normally just write whenever I have time to write, mainly because,
Yeah.
like, the first writing book I read was Writing Magic by Gail Carson Levine, and in that book, she said that the best way to write more is to write whenever you have 5 minutes and have access to, like, a computer or a pen and notebook, and that is literally what I did. Whenever I had a spare moment, I would just be writing.
That's great. I think
Yeah.
that's great advice.
Yeah, mostly great advice because I do need to take breaks, and I did get carpal tunnel syndrome for a while. Because,
Ooh.
like, if you're wondering what this white thing is, it's like a
Oh,
DIY
yeah. Mhm.
wrist brace because of carpal
Wow.
tunnel. Yeah, it's not so great, so, you know, I'd recommend to anyone who's watching, who is also a writer, to definitely take breaks. Otherwise, you shall be cursed with carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Um, okay, can we make this the last one?
yeah, okay.
The final, like, we'll make it a good final question.
Okay, and yeah, so this is the final question that I always ask
Okay,
all
good.
writers, and that question is, so many readers and like young people in the world often dream of becoming writers. And so, like, what's your advice for young writers who are just starting out and really want their book to be a huge success?
Okay, so my advice for young writers is actually I have three pieces of advice. Number one, write. Number two, write. Number three, write. it's really it's really, especially when you're younger, I mean, what you're describing is almost too extreme, where you're giving yourself carpal tunnel syndrome from writing so much. But I mean, it is the most important thing when you're younger, and not just, I mean, depending whatever stage you are, when we're just starting out, it doesn't have to be younger. Some
Yeah,
people are in their 40s and they decide, I want to be a, or 50s or 60s, and they're like, I want to be a writer and I want to write a book. And if you don't have practice, that's how you get better at anything. You don't start thinking, I want to be good at playing the piano, and immediately start thinking about yourself, on a concert hall, performing in front of a huge crowd. You're just trying to kind of like learn the notes. And with writing, it's the same. You just early on, I think it's it's great to kind of imagine and dream about kind of writing a bestseller someday, but
yeah,
the important thing is to just sit down and write, and to recognize that, like, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And yeah, and then down the line, if you've been doing it long enough, because like in my case, my example, like, I loved writing when I was your age. I was definitely not as serious about it, but I would get an idea and I would write a little story and share it with my friends and family, and that was kind of, that was how I would do it. And then I would go months without even thinking about writing. And then it wasn't until I got a little older that I got into college and I started writing more seriously. And that sort of started with keeping a diary. And that's another kind of part of that, kind of the three pieces of advice: write, write, write. If you're kind of like not sure what you should write about, start a diary. Just write about your day. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It could just be like, this is what I ate for breakfast. This is, what I did at school. This is what my parents, some embarrassing thing that my parents said or something. And as as time goes on, in my case, I was writing in my diary, and then I started kind of branching out and writing more fiction. But I'd established the kind of habit of writing every day. And but even then, I was, it was years and years and years before anything I wrote got published. And this was kind of before it was as easy as it is now to go with self-publishing or publish
Yeah.
things on the internet. So I submitted things and they got rejected, and I submitted more stuff and it got rejected also. And, but I just didn't let that stop me. And I kept working at it because I loved it and wanted to wanted to see my books get published. And eventually, after, years and years and years of writing and working at it, I managed to write, something that was good enough to find an agent, find a publisher. And I've just been sort of lucky enough to keep doing that since then. But yeah, and especially early on, like I said, just keep writing. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. And so, like, I'm assuming, like, that's all the time you have, like, for this interview. So, thank you so much for, like, joining me on Skype today. And
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
thank you so much. It was really amazing to, like, hear a bit more about your writing process, about, like, your books. And yeah, and thank you to everyone who watched this video for, well, watching this video. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to, like, I know there are a bunch of stuff I want you to check out, but okay, I'm probably just rambling. So definitely don't forget to check out, Lee Bacon's books. They are amazing. I hope to read more of them. Assuming I can find them. I don't know. If they're not on Kindle Unlimited, I don't know, I'll just get them at like a digital library or just, I don't know, I'll get them the next time I do a book haul.
It's
But yeah,
tricky if you're not. Yeah, if you're in another country, it's
yeah,
hard to find. It can be hard to find the find the books that you're looking for. I live in Germany now, even though I'm from the U.S. And yeah, sometimes there's a book that comes out that I'm excited about, and it's finding it is not always so easy in Germany.
yeah,
But that's the nice thing about Kindle and Audible is usually you can find them, find the books there, hopefully. And yeah, otherwise you just gotta you gotta, I don't know, go searching around, I guess.
yeah. And yeah, thank you so much for like doing this interview. And yeah, have a great day.
Great, thank you. Same to
Okay,
you. Bye,
okay,
everyone.
bye.